All right, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Danielle McCandless. I am in the Solon office. I'm the team leader of the Select Ohio team. We're part of the Easy Referral Network. Christine is part of the Easy Referral Network. Also, she's in Elevate though, so we're kind of like a big group. Started in Westlake. I actually have only ever been with Keller Williams, and I have only ever been with our team. I've been in real estate for 8 years now. When I first started, I was part-time. I still worked for an orthodontist. I was actually in dentistry for over 20 years, and then transitioned into real estate full-time. So today, I guess we're talking about negotiating our value with buyers, which is huge right now, just with everything that's going on in the market. Um, I know everybody's kind of seen there's like a list of like hundreds of things that agents do for their clients and everything. And um, some of the ones I think that everybody already knows, like paperwork handling, connections in the business, your marketing or your market knowledge, and your negotiation skills, which they're all great. But for me, I think there's more important, just advocacy with your buyers and bringing education to them. When I have a meeting, I kind of go over all these buyer consultations. I go over all these things, but really focus in on how important it is for advocacy for them, educating them through the process, problem solving. You never know when something's going to come up, helping them guide them through the process. And if something does come up, really helping to navigate through any issues there might be, have it be lending or the inspection, appraisal. We all know things come up in our deals every day. Support is really big. I know we wear many hats. Emotional support is a huge one for our buyers. Step-by-step assistance and definitely trying to help reduce their stress. Buying a house is huge. It's one of the biggest, if not the biggest purchase that a lot of these people will ever make. And just helping guide them through that process is super, super important. I always try to explain to them that, especially now, so sellers have that advocate for them. They have their listing agent that they have signed an agreement with. That agent, their responsibility and fiduciary responsibility is to really do what's in their best interest, get them the highest price, have the transaction go smoothly for them. And that on the buyer side, they need to have that same advocate, that same guide to help them through the process as well. I know a lot of people say, well, I'll just call the listing agent. You can absolutely do that. But again, it is the responsibility of that agent to do what's in the best interest of the seller. So when it comes to negotiating price and things like that, they're not going to try and get you the best deal as the buyer. They're going to get the best deal for their seller. They want to get them the most money and everything. So it is important for them to have their own advocate and through the process and everything. I had an appointment just last week for a buyer consult. I'll be honest, I haven't always done buyer consultations. I was really kind of a bad agent when it came to that, listing presentations and everything like that. Absolutely, but not so much a buyer consultation. And just, I think it's really important to sit down with people and get to know them and see what they're looking for and explain to them the importance of having that um, advocate for them. Since the seller has that, they deserve to have the same. So it was interesting having the meeting after everything that was kind of said in our conversation. They were 100% on board with paying a buyer's agent. I mean, in all honesty, I'm a very optimistic person. I think it's going to be that way. And there's definitely going to be people that don't want to pay an agent, and that's okay. You probably don't want to work with them anyways. And people that you already know who trust you and want to work with you, if it's a referral or family or friend in your sphere, it's probably going to be a much easier sell to have them work with you. I know for myself and some others on our team, we were kind of talking about even doing, you could do like a house by house basis, or kind of like a trial period of getting to know the person a little bit for a few weeks before you really sign that contract with them, and having that exclusive relationship and helping them. So I don't know what everyone else's thoughts are on that, is if that's what they're kind of thinking. Are you getting it right from the beginning, that buyer's guide signed or anything? Anybody want to chime in? I see a lot of faces, but no.
I thought the Ohio law said that we had to have them do it before we could show them a home.
Yes, I believe that's true, but to maybe do it as a house by house basis kind of thing, not necessarily, because I believe you can set it up if you want to do it house by house, a certain time frame, something like that. Because I know a lot of times people aren't necessarily comfortable signing right up front, especially if they don't know you. I feel like when you start talking about signing contracts, or same thing like when you start talking about pre-approval, people kind of ghost you. They get like nervous and kind of back off. People don't know what they don't know, and all of this is it's a big deal. It's a lot of money up front, or to buy a house, and then to also ask them to pay you. Sometimes that could be a little bit more of a tough sell. So if you kind of go on a house by house basis, maybe that's a little bit easier for them to swallow than for basically your entire time until they close on their house. I am also a big believer in mindset, and I think you need to be believing in yourself, your own value, and your own worth, or you're going to have a really hard time going into an appointment and selling yourself to someone else if you're not believing your own worth too. Anybody have any thoughts with how their buying appointments have gone so far, since we've kind of, everybody's talking about all the changes? I think it's interesting too. Not everybody even knows what's going on in like the industry with um, just the whole thing with buyer agents and things like that. There's a lot of clients that really don't know what's going on. They didn't really understand the process to begin with. And knowing that it was always negotiable anyways, I don't think it's going to be too much of a big change, in all honesty. And I think when you're working with someone, we had someone on our call the other day on our team. She has a listing, and the seller was offering a buyer's commission, and she had multiple offers. And this client, or excuse me, this buyer, the agent wrote in the contract of 1.5%. And I believe her seller was already offering 3%. And she ended up calling that agent and just asking why he would upfront just ask for 1.5% instead of asking for more. They were already offering more, and he was devaluing himself. And it was an agent that was in the industry for a while. And he basically said that he made a mistake, that I think he got nervous with just everything going on, and didn't think that his clients were going to end up paying, which in this scenario, they weren't going to have to pay anyways, because the seller was already offering it. But they didn't take a look at themselves and the value that they bring to the table. And I think that was bad for him, but also bad for us as a whole. If there's agents that are doing that and just not showing their value of why they're important for these buyers and representation, then across the board, you're going to start seeing that a little bit more. I'm hopeful though that it's going to continue, that sellers are going to be offering buyer, I don't want compensation, not commission. I have to keep correcting myself. don't know about everybody else, but just, and again, I think there's always changes in the industry and we kind of flow with them and learn along the way. What is everyone else's thoughts?
Do you have any good objection scripts, or just somebody that seems very hesitant on signing a buyer's agreement?
Kind of see what is holding them back, like what's their block that's kind of holding them back from really having representation. Is it a lot of times probably it's they feel that they can't afford it. I mean, let's be honest, there's a lot of people, if they're FHA loans and they don't have a lot of money down and things like that. So again, I was explained that I'm going to do my very best, that they're not going to have to be paying it out of pocket, that we'll be able to negotiate it into the contract itself and roll it into the buyer's concessions. So if they can ask for up to 6% for closing costs. Majority of the time, they don't need all of that, and you'll be able to use some of that to go towards your compensation. But again, it can go back to going by house basis. Again, you can have the conversation up front if you know ahead of time that absolutely the seller is not going to have any kind of compensation. Maybe that's not a house that they want to go see. If it's important to them to have the representation, then maybe they want to focus more on houses that, you're going to be able to have a little bit of extra help from the sellers if they're offering anything. And I know as time goes on, our team is working on a lot of classes and a lot of scripting. And I know just being educated and having that information in your pocket, you can go into situations talking about it a lot easier when you are feeling confident.
What about the stubborn people that just don't see any value in having a buyer's agent? How do you prove your value, or like, what do you offer them?
So I'm going to be honest, there's going to be those people, and I probably don't want to work with them anyways. They're probably going to be a pain in the butt. If they can't see the value in having representation and having all that support and guidance through the process, I will wish them well. And you're not going to get everybody, and to be honest with you. And I hope that they have a successful transaction with somebody else, but I know my time and effort is worth a lot more than probably what they're offering if it's going to be nothing. I know, again, on my appointment the other day, nobody wants to work for free. I don't care if you're a teacher, you're in a warehouse, anything. Nobody goes to work thinking they're just going to do it for free. And I believe that most people are going to really understand that. And again, if they are comfortable having someone who represents the person they're buying from and not having their own, knowing that they'll probably pay more for that property. And if something comes up in negotiation, chances are it's not going to go in their favor because that other person is working for the seller. And again, there is probably somebody that'll do it for next to nothing. But I know Christine was going to tell a story. I'll probably tell it wrong since it's not my story, but just basically about like restaurants. I mean, you can go to McDonald's for like chicken nuggets, or you can go to Chick-fil-A for chicken nuggets. They're all chicken nuggets, basically, but your experience is so different. Like when you go to Chick-fil-A, like they ask you your name and how your day is, and they take care of you. You know you're being taken care of. When you go to McDonald's, there's not even a person there. Like you walk in and there's like a kiosk where you just put the information in there, and then there's no interaction. There's no, like, if do you need help? Like, what if I can't pay or something like that? So will it get done? Probably. Will it be a good experience? I hope it is. But I can guarantee if you are represented by a buyer's agent, you're gonna have a much better, smoother transaction and have somebody there to help you every step of the way. It is stressful. There are things that come up that make you even more stressed out. You're worrying about packing and finding movers and utilities and things like that. Just little things that you may not even be thinking of that you have to remember. And when you have somebody who does this for a living, you're going to have a much easier, more successful transaction, I believe.
So it sounds like it's a good time for buyers agents to kind of revisit their buying process and how they communicate and work with buyers and just improve their offerings.
Mhm.
Just like step up your game and, schedule out your reminder emails for inspections and closings and just get more hands-on than
Mhm.
I've noticed buyers being in the past.
Yes. And I feel, again, I've been in the industry for 8 years. I haven't seen all the markets that I know like a lot of other agents have seen, but from what I've heard, these past 2 years have been pretty easy. So I think we're just going to have to take the time to do the work, really focus in on care of our clients, hand-holding. We have so many resources, education out there, and just taking advantage of it. I know if anybody is on like the James Shaw calls right now, we're going through every Monday is the MREA book of just really going back to basics. And I think that's really important in our business, and it helps. I mean, just presenting our value proposition to people, really just kind of take a look at your buyer consult and make a list of the things that you are doing, practice it. I know you can do like script practice and everything with all of anything that you come up with. It's not necessarily memorizing a script word for word, but it's just kind of having your base of things that your points that you want to talk about. And the more you do it, the easier it'll get. So you'll be able to meet with people and talk about it with more ease. And then when things come up, you'll be able to answer those questions.
Yeah, and then in the chat, I also dropped a link. It's the 80 things your Keller Williams buyer agent will do for you. So, just kind of like take a read over that and really highlight some things that you actually do, and you can promote more to your buyers, showing your value. And if you are going to utilize this list, be sure you're actually doing those things and don't just say you are.
100%. Yes. Lean into the resources. For sure. There are so many there for us. And I don't know, everybody doesn't use Command, but it's great when you start working with a buyer or seller. There's a whole like list in there. It kind of reminds people of like next steps in the transaction. And they're just, again, easy things that you don't really have to do that are kind of done for you that really make an impact on people. Building those relationships, and then it'll lead to more relationships in the future.
Anyone else have any questions or concerns?
Are there any other tricks to negotiate our compensation other than concessions? So I know there's like a couple different ways. I mean, talking to the lender, if there's anything, I know like the biggest thing is the concessions. Or if they offer more and ask for, I mean, you're asking for a credit for whatever reason, if it's their closing cost, if it's for your compensation. I know there's some things in the works. I don't know. Chris has something coming up, I believe, tomorrow. I mean, I think that would be a good question to ask on the lender side. I know just because, again, there's not everybody has cash on hand. I know I've heard crazy things of like where you can sign up for almost like a credit card where you like pay agents or whatever. I don't think any of that's like in the works now, but I'm sure they're coming up with a ton of different plans to help with this process.
Yeah, and every has different programs and, assistance for your buyers. So, if you are in a crunch and you're ready to write an offer and it's like, oh no, sellers aren't providing any co-op compensation, always call your lender first, give them the scoop and say, hey, what can we do to, make sure my buyers are able to pay me for my efforts.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. And hopefully you have a very great co-broke. I mean, that also helps having a conversation with them in the beginning and through the whole process of everything and trying to figure out what we can do. They want to sell that house just as much as your buyer wants to buy a house. And again, if they're explaining things correctly to their seller, the way it always has been, it's like compensation has been negotiable, but really it's come out of the buyer anyways, because they couldn't pay anybody unless they sold their house, really. So it's coming out of that net on the end. So just everybody, sellers, buyers, just having that education for the agents and everything, and everybody playing nice in the sandbox, as I like to say. Questions?
I think that's about it.
All right, that's all I have.
All right. Thanks for jumping on. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.